I mean, look, we would all like to be able to give comfort to our constituents who are anxious. We'd like to be able to allay people's fear and anxiety. And the anxiety that's been expressed is, how big will this get? What will it really look like? And when you see these drawings, they aren't even really drawings, they're blocks, they're visualization that show a zoning envelope. The impression that's given is that you're going to have these enormous behemoth buildings, and I don't think that's likely, but I can't prove that it's not true any more than my colleague or the community members can prove that it is true. It's an unprovable question. If anybody wants to comment, feel free. If not, we can just proceed.
I want to comment because I do think it's materially different than what was done before. There's another chart somewhere, and I can't find it here, that actually talked about likely build-out. And when they talk about likely build-out, they use numbers like 100% on this because they have done things that make it more likely to build out than the other zone allowed.
Okay, so
I mean, it is just flat out true that we had zones in place that nobody ever anticipated being built out to their full density. And it didn't bother anybody, and nobody was vexed about it, and nobody ever said, oh my gosh, that shopping center doesn't have a 2.5 FAR on it. Everybody knew that you couldn't put the parking there and you couldn't put the buildings there, and it was okay. It's not like a disappointment that these centers didn't get built out to the full FAR. It was just something that everybody knew was never going to happen. And now we've embarked on a path where they're actually trying to make the full density happen. And that's a materially different situation. And you're right, everything may not be built out fully. I note that, and I noted the night in Kensington that there were projects in White Flint that did not quite get to their full imaginable FAR, but they got pretty close to their FAR. And the goal here is certainly to drive the numbers toward the maximum. Nobody here would be happy if the FAR in Kensington, I wouldn't say nobody, leaving out the residents there in the audience, nobody on the planning board would be unhappy if would be happy if the FAR in Kensington, after all of this, was a 0.4 FAR. You didn't do this so that the densities remained as they've been historically. You did this so the densities would be different. And I don't see how you can say that that's not what you did.
I would suggest one small alteration perhaps in the way you've stated that. The goal is not the density. The goal is revitalization, and the density is a way to get there. It's our view that if you don't provide that density, property owners will not have the incentive to do anything of note with regard to revitalization and redevelopment. So that's just a little bit of a nuance that you might want to think about.
Right, and that's where the debate is whether you need these numbers to achieve revitalization, or whether revitalization could have been achieved, for example, under the ULI numbers. And I've got to say, when ULI makes a recommendation, I usually look at that as the most extreme of the extreme. I figure ULI starts from the perspective of they are the building industry representatives. When they tell you something, they represent the most extreme version of what they want to do. So when ULI comes in with a lower number than this, I'm kind of shocked. And then it's dismissed as, well, they weren't really serious and didn't spend enough time on it, and it was just guesswork on their part, and they only had 7 days and blah, blah, blah. So suddenly the much vaunted ULI has been reduced to, it was just like a silly little exercise they did for however many thousands of dollars the town of Kensington paid for it.